Across China, reality bends in such unusual ways that the rest of the world can barely imagine. From preserved eggs and urine to hold tea ceremonies for clay pets, these are more than oddities, they're cultural phenomena. Let's explore 20 of the most unusual things you'll only see in China.
Cockroach farms. Imagine a building the size of 2 sports fields. Its shelves stacked with open trays of food and water. Now fill it with 6 billion cockroaches, thriving in constant warmth, dampness, and darkness. This is no horror set. It's the world's largest cockroach farm in Xichang, China, producing more adults each year than there are humans on Earth. Basically, paradise, if you have 6 legs and questionable taste in snacks. An AI system monitors every creepy, crawly resident, tracking growth like it's running the world's least adorable daycare. The cockroaches aren't pets, though. They're destined to be processed into a liquid medicine prescribed to millions of patients for respiratory, gastric, and other ailments. A 100 milliliter bottle goes for about $4. Cockroach farming in China is big business. Pulverized roach powder is a patented ingredient in traditional Chinese medicine, and some cosmetic companies use it as a cheap protein source. Back in 2013, farmers could make $20 livestock. Cliff bed experience. Nothing says relaxing weekend like sipping coffee with your feet swinging over a 320-foot drop. In Chenzhou's Mangshan National Forest Park, $13 gets you the cliff bed experience. A steel platform with a mattress bolted to a cliff face. It's not really for sleeping, it's for selfies, which, let's be honest, is basically the same thing now. Guests clip into a safety harness before crawling onto the bed because free soloing in pajamas is frowned upon. Once settled, you get a complimentary coffee, which you can enjoy while pretending you're not one strong breeze away from starring in a rescue video. One visitor called it not as terrifying as I expected and said they stayed about 30 minutes, mostly to stage photos. In other words, the bed is less a place to nap and more a prop in your personal action movie, with you playing the brave but cozy lead. It's marketed as a way to forget about the world, though in practice, you'll probably remember gravity every second you're up there. Still, for the price of a chain cafe frappuccino, you can just hang out there. Virgin boy eggs. If you think brunch trends have gone too far, you haven't met Dongyang's signature dish yet. They're called virgin boy eggs, chicken eggs slow cooked in the urine of boys under the age of 10. Vendors collect the ingredients from local elementary schools, setting out basins in hallways like it's some sort of science fair. Teachers even remind the kids, no donations if you've got a fever. The process is thorough. Eggs are soaked in the urine, boiled, cracked, re-soaked, and then the old urine is swapped for fresh. Herbs may be tossed in for flavor, but honestly, that's a bit like spritzing cologne on a dumpster. After a full day of curing, the whites take on a pale gold color, the yolks turn green, and the smell, according to fans, is fragrant. Locals say the tradition goes back centuries, born from the same food-preserving culture that gave us tea eggs and century eggs. In Dongyang, they're considered a seasonal treat, selling for about 24 cents each, twice the price of a normal egg. Geese police. In some rural areas of Xinjiang, local law enforcement has replaced traditional guard dogs with domesticated geese, which have proven unexpectedly effective in certain security roles. Local officials say the birds are braver, louder, and harder for intruders to deal with than a single dog. Good luck sneaking past a bird that sounds like a car alarm and moves like it's got a grudge. Geese have zero chill. They spread their wings to look bigger, stomp forward in that weird waddling charge, and let out a honk that could wake a cemetery. Strangers get no warm welcome, just a wall of flapping wings and the very real threat of being chased down the road. The police praise them for their vigilance, saying they'll attack anyone unfamiliar entering a home. And unlike dogs, you can't distract a goose with a treat. Bread just makes them angrier and closer. Instead of a security camera, you've got a yard full of giant white birds on high alert, ready to make noise loud enough for the whole village to hear. Nail houses. Everyone else took the money. This guy took a stand. In China, they call it a dingzihu, a nail house, because it sticks out so stubbornly that nothing can pry it loose. Property developers buy out an entire block, bulldoze everything, and then there's this one building left, refusing to move, like a lone tooth in a punched-out smile. Sometimes it's about the payout, sometimes it's about principle. Either way, the result is the same. The neighborhood disappears, and the nail house sits in the middle of whatever rises around it. A shopping mall parking lot, a construction pit, or, in one famous case, the dead center of a newly paved highway. Cars just split and flow around it like it's the most inconvenient roundabout in history. The owners live in a surreal kind of isolation, surrounded by dust, traffic, and a view that's equal parts victory and stubbornness. Developers call it a headache. Activists call it defiance. Everyone else just slows down to take pictures. Egg-laying mountain. Some mountains grow trees. This one pops out 660-pound stone eggs every 30 years. Because, why not? In Guizhou province, the Chandaya cliff looks ordinary until, once in a generation, smooth oval boulders start dropping off its face like it's a prehistoric vending machine. The cliff is only about 20 feet wide and 65 feet long, but it's got one party trick: reveal perfectly rounded eggs and send them tumbling to the ground. Scientists say the mountain isn't actually laying anything, it's just slowly peeling away. The cliff is made of soft, calcareous rock with harder, egg-shaped stones hidden inside. Over decades, rain and wind wear down the soft layers, until one day, a stone is freed and gravity does the rest. The process is so slow, the locals measure it in generations. For centuries, the falling stones have been treated as lucky charms. Tourists show up hoping to see one mid-drop or to haul one home, though souvenir might be a generous word for something the size of a small motorcycle. Geologists still can't predict the exact timing, and the mountain isn't talking. But it keeps doing what it's been doing for centuries, waiting 30 years to drop a rock. Ghost cities, brand new skyscrapers, zero people. It's like a real estate apocalypse, but shinier. All over China, you'll find entire districts of glass towers, perfect roads, and gleaming shopping malls, and almost no one inside. Some are fully finished, but underpopulated. Others are half-built skeletons, abandoned mid-construction when developers ran out of money. Together, they've earned the nickname Ghost Cities, though technically they were never alive to begin with. The scale is absurd. By 2020, China had an estimated 65 million empty homes, enough to house the population of France, with room left over for their pets. Many of these places were built ahead of demand, part of an urbanization push that aims to have 75% of the population living in cities by 2035. The idea: build it now, and people will come later. Sometimes it works. Ordos Kangbashi, once famous for empty streets, now has over 150,000 residents. Sometimes not so much. To investors, these towers are bank vaults made of concrete and glass, bought as a way to store wealth, even if nobody ever moves in. To photographers, they're gold mines for eerie end-of-the-world shots. Rent a date. Around Chinese New Year, when family gatherings turn into interrogation sessions about your love life, some singles in China skip the awkwardness entirely by hiring a fake partner. Agencies and apps now offer rent-a-boyfriend or rent-a-girlfriend packages, complete with pre-agreed backstories and personality types. You want cheerful and chatty? Done. You want quiet but respectable? Also on the menu. Female dates typically cost more than male ones, though both can range from fresh-faced teens to seasoned 30-somethings who can navigate even the nosiest ant. The performance is strictly platonic, but the job description is oddly specific. Smile at the right moments, remember your cover story, and never ever contradict the version of reality your partner is selling. Bonus points if you can make grandma believe wedding bells are imminent. It's part theater, part social camouflage, and for some, the easiest way to survive holiday small talk. Pajama patrol. Why bother with pants when PJs scream confidence and convenience? In Suzhou, it's perfectly normal to see someone strolling the market in matching satin sleepwear. Quick trip for groceries, maybe a walk in the park, no one's judging. Or at least they weren't until the local authorities decided pajama wearers were an uncivilized behavior worth cracking down on. Earlier this year, city officials posted surveillance stills of 7 offenders, complete with surnames, partially blurred ID numbers, and full headshots. The images, pulled from facial recognition CCTV, were dutifully annotated like a fashion police lineup. The crime? Taking a short walk without changing into real clothes. The backlash was instant. Netizens weren't debating the pajama aesthetic so much as the creep factor of having your bedtime outfit immortalized by government tech. The post was quickly deleted, and the city issued an apology, admitting maybe they'd gone a little overboard. But the practice itself? Still alive and well. Because for many, if you're only going 2 blocks for fresh vegetables, what's the point of wrestling with jeans? Especially when your flannel set is warmer, looser, and already paid for. Giant rubber duck. Beijing woke up one day and said, "Let's float a 50-foot duck through the city." No context needed. For Beijing Design Week 2013, organizers imported the original 10-meter-tall inflatable duck by Dutch artist Florentine Hofmann, partly as public art, partly as a giant yellow middle finger to knock off culture. See, when Hoffman's duck appeared in Hong Kong earlier that year, bootleg versions started popping up across China. Tianjin had one, Wuhan had one. Merch sellers cranked out unauthorized t-shirts before the duck had even left the harbor. So Beijing decided to bring in the real deal, license the merch, and threaten legal action against the wannabes, which is probably the only time a giant bath toy has been used to push an intellectual property rights agenda. Hoffman insists his duck knows no frontiers and doesn't discriminate, though it did pull 8 million visitors in Hong Kong, which is more than most pop stars can brag about. Since 2007, it's bobbed through Sydney, Amsterdam, São Paulo, and now Beijing, where it drifted through Design Week like a bright yellow reminder that not all floating things are for sale. And yes, it's massive. Stand next to it and you're basically toddler-sized again, minus the bathtub and plus a crowd of people holding selfie sticks.
Okay, now it's time for the open discussion.
This is the most unusual thing in all of China. Massive tubs overflowing with slithering eels and dozens of workers casually wrangling them like it's just another Tuesday. What kind of industry needs this many eels every day? The room smells like brine and scales, and the sound, a wet chorus of wriggles. Is it tradition, obsession, or just business? How did this slippery scene become a daily reality for so many? Drop your thoughts below, and don't forget to mention #OpenDiscussion, messenger pigeons. When the Wi-Fi dies, China still has a backup plan. Spoiler, it coos. In Chengdu, the People's Liberation Army is training 10,000 messenger pigeons to deliver military communications if modern systems fail. These aren't hobby birds. They're a fully organized unit, drilled for special missions along border areas when electromagnetic interference or, sabotage wipes out digital signals. The officer in charge calls them the most practical and effective short and medium distance tool for the job. Translation: faster than a Jeep in traffic, harder to hack than a server, and impossible to DDoS unless you own a Hawk. China's Pigeon Corps isn't new. The country's had one since 1950, but the current flock is a serious upgrade from the few hundred previously tasked with island-to-mainland correspondence in the South China Sea. The lineage even traces back to 1937, when American pilot Claire Lee Chennault brought hundreds of messenger pigeons to help resist Japan's invasion. The choice of Chengdu is strategic. Pigeons always fly home, so the city acts as mission control. Face keenies. Your face deserves its own bodyguard with a flair for style. In Beijing's record-breaking heat, 95 degrees Fahrenheit in the air and up to 176 degrees Fahrenheit on the ground, sun protection has gone tactical. Enter the face keenie, a full face mask with cutouts for your eyes and nose, paired with UV-resistant jackets, arm sleeves, and hats wide enough to shade a small patio. Some even come with built-in fans, because nothing says summer chic like a personal wind tunnel strapped to your head. Shops report sales are way up compared to a few years ago, with customers buying them like sunscreens going out of style. And while staying cool is part of the appeal, there's also the East Asian preference for keeping skin pale, a cultural sunscreen that predates SPF 50 by centuries. Tourists are fully on board. Chinese state TV recently showed visitors at Xinjiang's Flaming Mountains posing for selfies in full coverage gear, right next to a 40-foot thermometer flashing an 80 degrees Celsius surface temperature. Think sci-fi desert planet, but with more floral prints. Whether it's about avoiding sunspots, dodging skin disease, or just surviving the heat without melting, the face keenie has become less weird beach fad and more mandatory summer uniform. And if you happen to look like a fashionable bank robber in the process, bonus: hanging coffins. When you run out of burial space, just hang your loved ones off a cliff. In parts of China, ancient cultures practiced shuangguan, hanging coffins, placing the dead high up on sheer rock faces. Some rest in cliffside caves. Others balance on wooden beams jutting straight out from the mountain, or perch on natural stone ledges hundreds of feet above the ground. The most famous belong to the Bo people of Sichuan and Yunnan, an ethnic group wiped out by the Ming Dynasty in 1573. Carved from a single block of wood, these coffins were somehow hauled up vertical walls long before cranes or power tools. Why? No one knows. The Bo left no language, no records, just an aerial graveyard and a lot of questions. Marco Polo suggested it was to keep the dead safe from disturbance, but that's about as close to an answer as anyone's gotten. Today, some Ku people in Yunnan, possibly Bo descendants, still maintain the tradition. In certain areas, locals with the surname He are believed to be tied to that ancient lineage. The cliffs are now tourist sites, the coffins visible as dark shapes against pale stone. They've been there for centuries, untouched, unreachable, watching over the valleys below. Open crotch pants. Why use diapers when pants can have a built-in escape hatch? In China, toddlers have been rocking Kai Dang Ku, split crotch pants, for generations. Imagine regular kids' pants, except there's no seam between the legs. None. The gap means when nature calls, there's no wrestling with snaps, zippers, or Velcro, just a squat and done. Sidewalk, park, grandma's courtyard. The world is basically your restroom. They're practical, cheap, and wildly efficient. No diaper changes, no landfill mountains of plastic waste. A solid win for the environment when you consider the US alone tosses around 20 billion disposable diapers a year. Chinese babies historically never wore diapers at all. Kai Dang Ku were the default, whether in the city or countryside. To Western visitors, the sight can be anywhere from mildly surprising to full culture shock. You see a toddler waddling down the street, spot the exit hatch, and realize there's no barrier between the kid and spontaneous public urination. And yet, it works. Parents avoid the cost of endless diapers, kids potty train early, and laundry is just part of life. Upside-down house. A house that ignores gravity and laughs in the face of logic. In Shanghai's Fengjing ancient town, there's a home where the floors are ceilings, the ceilings are floors, and your brain quietly files for early retirement. From the outside, it looks like someone dropped a suburban house into the street upside down and just walked away. Inside, every room is flipped. Beds hang over your head, chairs cling to the ceiling, and light fixtures dangle just inches from what you're walking on, which, visually, is the roof. Even the kitchen is inverted, with cookware floating above you like you're trapped in a mid-air breakfast explosion. Tourists wander through trying to act casual while their inner ear begs for mercy. Every step feels wrong. Every photo looks staged by a surrealist who's had too much coffee. The whole place is fully furnished, which somehow makes it weirder. It's one thing to see an upside-down house. It's another to feel like someone actually lives here and just refuses to acknowledge physics. It's equal parts funhouse, optical illusion, and social media bait, and yes, it's wildly popular. Dragon scale escalator. It's a dragon. It's an escalator. And yes, it will carry you up a gorge in style. At Longqing Gorge, about 53 miles north of Beijing, a massive yellow dragon slithers up the cliffside. Except instead of breathing fire, it's got handrails and moving steps. At 846 feet long, it's the world's largest outdoor escalator, built to whisk visitors to the top of China's largest dam without breaking a sweat. From the outside, it looks like a cartoon monster that wandered off a parade float and decided to stay. Inside, you ride through the dragon's belly as it climbs the gorge. The cliffs on either side making the whole thing feel both spectacular and slightly absurd. At the top, you can take a boat across the artificial lake, hop on a cable car, or for reasons unknown, bungee jump into the gorge. And if that's not enough adrenaline, the summit greets you with a surreal lineup of fake animals frozen in mid-scare, like someone raided a taxidermy shop and just went for it. If you're going to ride an escalator, why not make it through a giant dragon's stomach? Tea pets. Because your tea ceremony isn't complete without a clay lizard drinking with you. In China, serious tea drinkers sometimes keep a tea pet, a small unglazed figurine made from Yixing's famous purple clay. It sits on your tea tray like a silent guest, and during the ceremony, you pour tea over it. Over time, the clay absorbs the liquid, slowly darkening in color and picking up the scent of decades worth of brews. Think of it as a drinking buddy that never says anything but gets more interesting the longer you know it. Tea pets come in all shapes: zodiac animals, mythical beasts like dragons and Pixiu, legendary figures, even frogs said to bring wealth. And then there's the pee-pee boy. Soak him in cold water, splash him with hot water, and he'll spray a tiny stream right back at you. It's equal parts novelty and practical thermometer. The tradition started in Yixing during the Song Dynasty, when teapot artisans began sculpting these mascots alongside their famous clay teapots. Watermelon Museum. An entire museum dedicated to the watermelon. Clearly, priorities are in order. Just south of Beijing, in Panggezhuang, one of the most prolific watermelon growing regions on Earth, sits 4,000 square meters of pure melon devotion. The China Watermelon Museum has been honoring Citrullus lenatus since 2002, tracing its journey from southern Africa to, allegedly, outer space. Inside, you'll find wax watermelons representing varieties from around the world, glowing under abundant neon lighting like the produce aisle at a nightclub. There are ancient Chinese poems about melons, exhibits on cultivation methods, and long, earnest explanations of watermelon culture. The building itself is capped with a massive impressionistic watermelon over the entrance, just in case you forgot what you came for. If plastic fruit feels a little dishonest, there's also an outdoor area where real melons grow, living proof the obsession isn't entirely decorative. Harbin Ice and Snow Festival. Harbin doesn't just get snow, it builds an entire frozen city out of it, then lights it up like a neon ice kingdom. Every winter, temperatures in Harbin drop so low they make your freezer look tropical. Perfect conditions, apparently, for carving 64,000 square feet of ice and snow into castles, towers, mazes, and slides, then wiring the whole thing with enough colored lights to make Vegas blush. The Harbin International Ice and Snow Festival started as a humble ice lantern show in 1963. Now, it's the world's largest frozen amusement park, pulling in over 18 million visitors a year. Most of the ice comes straight from the Songhua River, hand-cut into giant blocks and assembled into a glowing cityscape you can wander through until your eyelashes freeze. The main venue, Ice and Snow World, is basically Disneyland, but everything will give you frostbite. You'll find 24 ice slides, a snowflake maze, a Ferris wheel, and the Ice King Tower looming over it all. Sun Island hosts massive snow sculptures. Think dreamscapes, world monuments, and surreal creatures, while Jalen Park keeps things whimsical with 300 ice lanterns and smaller slides, free for anyone to enjoy. Square dancing. Dinner's done. Now it's time to throw down in the parking lot. Across China, Guangchangwu, public square dancing turns plazas and parks into nightly dance floors. Led mostly by middle-aged and retired women, these synchronized routines blast everything from folk songs to modern pop at volumes that could wake the dead. The modern trend took off in the 1990s as a cheap social way to stay active. Now over 100 million people take part, and not everyone's thrilled. Noise complaints are constant. Some neighbors retaliate with water buckets or competing speakers. In 2015, the government even tried issuing standardized routines. The dancers ignored them, because for them, it's not just exercise, it's community, it's nostalgia, and it's claiming public space, one deafening playlist at a time. Thanks for sticking around till the end. If you had fun, tap like, hit subscribe, and drop a little hello. You showing up matters more than you know. See you next time.